We're talking today with Mel Doebler of Traverse City, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, so Mel, now we're recording now. So to start with, please tell us where and when you were born.
When I what?
Where and when were you born?
Oh, in Detroit.
Right. And what year?
1925.
Okay. Now, did you grow up in Detroit?
Yeah, I grew up in Detroit.
All right. And what was your family doing for a living when you were a kid?
I worked for J.L. Hudson's. I don't know if you remember that.
Well, there was Hudson's department store.
Yeah, right, downtown in Detroit.
Right. Well, what did your family do? I mean, what did your father do for a living?
Huh?
What did your father do when you were a kid?
My father?
Mm-hmm.
He had a trucking business.
Okay.
And
was he able to keep that business during the Depression?
uh-huh.
Okay. So he did okay
Yeah.
at that time. All right. And then, did you finish high school?
Did I?
Yeah.
No, they drafted me out of the 12th grade.
Okay. So they didn't let you stay and finish the school year?
No.
Okay. When
No, they said, we want you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
Okay.
I could get my diploma if I wanted to, and so, but I did all right without it.
Okay. All right. So you could have stayed a little longer to finish
Uh-huh.
if you wanted to. Okay. So when did you join the Army?
What?
When did you join the Army? I have that.
1946.
Well, that's when you left.
Huh?
That's when you were discharged.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you were drafted when you turned 18.
Pardon?
You were drafted when you turned 18. That was 1943.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were in the Army from 43 to 46.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Camp Landing, Florida.
Okay. And what was that like?
17 weeks of just the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. I was only 18, and some of the people that I was training with were in their 30s, and I helped a few of them climb the wall and everything, because they couldn't make it. Because every day we had a different thing, and we did a lot of marching every day, probably about 10 miles, and we went out to the range and shot just about everything. I think I shot everything, even flamethrowers.
Okay.
And,
so that would have been rifles, machine guns?
Rifles and machine guns, and
did you fire a mortar?
And threw grenades.
Okay.
And we had a game of it, see how far we could throw the grenades. And I had never shot a rifle before in my life, but I kind of caught on pretty fast. And every day we had to take our rifles apart and put them back together. And they timed us on that to see how fast we could do it.
And how did the sergeants treat you?
Huh?
How did the sergeants treat you? The guys who were training you, Were they tough on you? Or?
Yeah, they were, I don't know if you call them cadres.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were probably 20-year people or even longer, and they were tough. They didn't care about anything. If your bed wasn't made right, they'd rip it apart and you had to make it over. And so, and especially when we were training, and if you couldn't make the wall, they just made you stay there for hours till you made it. So I felt sorry for the older men.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't make it.
Yeah. All right. Now, at this time, you were you assigned to a unit yet, or
No.
Okay, you were just training.
Not yet.
Yeah, just training. Okay.
And
then,
I got through with the 17 weeks,
right.
and we stayed there for another week until they assigned where I was going, and then I went to the 68th Battalion Infantry.
Mm-hmm.
They needed men.
Right.
I went to Kentucky,
Okay.
Camp Maxey, Kentucky.
Okay. All right. Now, was that?
And they were together for probably 4 or 5 years training. So
all right.
I
So.
was a rookie going in there with a lot of other people because they needed more men.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, was this part of the 14th Armored Division?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because you were, and when in your battalion, did you drive around in half tracks?
Uh-huh.
Did you have half tracks?
Yeah, we had a driver, and we were assigned 20 men for the half track, where we kept our equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Okay, but you couldn't.
no, we
fit-
didn't get to ride very much.
Okay, yeah. Well, could they fit 20 men in one half track?
So we kept in touch with most of those people after the war,
Mm-hmm.
especially the half track driver. And we went to visit them. He lived in Kentucky a couple times. So,
Okay. Now, how long did you spend in Kentucky when you were training?
I would think about 2 weeks, I think.
Okay. All right.
And
Now,
then we got the word we were shipping out.
all right. And then,
And then we went to New York.
okay. And how were they getting you around the country? How did you get from Detroit down to Camp Blandings? And how did you get from Camp Blandings to Kentucky?
By train.
Okay. And do you remember anything about those train rides?
Huh?
Do you remember those train rides?
The train ride?
Yeah, what were they like? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like a coach train, and we just sat up, and if you had to take a nap, you just sat there and took a little nap, and we got to New York, and we at that time the war was really a lot of fighting going on, and there was hundreds of people in New York to see us off, and we went on a boat that was called the Aquitania, and it probably was a cruise ship
Right.
made over, everything taken out, and they had hammocks at the bottom of the boat that you slept in, And the Atlantic Ocean is rough. And everybody got sick from going back and forth every night on those hammocks. So, but it took 14 days to get to France.
All right. Now, did the ship sail in a convoy? Were you in a convoy?
Yeah, there was, oh, I don't know, it was just hundreds of ships.
Okay. All right. And did you have, were there any U-boats around?
I went to Marseille's.
Marseille, okay.
I don't know if that's pronounced right or not.
Well, Marseille, but yeah, okay. But I guess when you were sailing, were there any problems with U-boats? Were there submarines that attacked you?
No.
Good. Yeah. By then, because we're getting into the fall of 1944 now, and by then they were pretty well under control.
So we stayed there for a couple of weeks and so we could get all our equipment and everything together, and we pitched tents, and so then after that we went into France, and that's where we started to fight some of the battles.
Right. Because the Americans had landed in that area of southern France, and they had been advancing north. And so there were Germans in front of them, and there were Germans in the mountains to the east of them.
Yeah, we were really outnumbered.
Mm-hmm.
And they pushed us back quite a few times. And
All right. Well, do you remember? Well, after so you landed in Marseille, and then from Marseille, did you go into the mountains, or did you go up the Rhone Valley and go north?
we went to, after going through France quite a ways, we went into the Maritime Alps in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans were trying to cross over there, so they'd be past our troops, and so we had to get up there and stop them, which we did.
All right.
So that was a pretty big battle.
Okay. Now, when you were fighting them, did your battalion work with the tanks, or okay?
Yeah, and then we came back down from the mountains, and we were pretty close to Brussels, Belgium.
Yep.
And we were still fighting there. They still were pretty strong, the Germans.
Okay. Well.
And we were all digging foxholes. 2 men that go foxhole, and we had the little tiny shovels that we dug with, and we dug as far as we could, and so we just waited for somebody to come and get us, and maybe move up, farther up, but somebody came, and they wanted to know my name and how old I was and all this. And they had a deck of cards. And he said, draw a card out of this deck. So I did, and I drew an ace of spades. And he said, I'll be back for you later on. So it was a few hours later, and he said, come on with me, we're gonna have some little fun. So I got a 7-day pass to Brussels.
Okay.
So I think when I got there, I think I was in the shower for 7 hours. And it was a great time. My gosh, I was in there with two other fellows that I didn't know. And the other two fellows knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
And seemed like they didn't want to do anything with me. So I was all on my own. And so I just kept asking the person that was like a leader for us. I said, "What's going on here?" I said, "Is there anything I can go see?" And she said, "Yes, we have a opera." And I said, "Oh gosh, I'd like to go see that just for the music and singing." So I went to that, and wow, that was really something. And then that was about over 2 hours, and I came back from that, and she said, "Do you really like music?" I said, "Oh gosh, yeah." She said, "Well, you'll have to travel a little bit, but we got a live band that are performing." So she said, "Would you like to go to see that?" And I said, "Oh gosh, yeah." So I did that, and that was good. And I got back to my hotel, and the two other fellows were there, and they asked me what I had been doing, and I told them. He said, "Oh, that's not that nice a thing to do." He said, and I know what they wanted to do. So, but they had some great candy, chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And I still don't know who pays for all this.
All right. Now, the woman who was guiding you around, was she an American or was she Belgian?
Uh-huh.
No, the woman who was giving you instructions or telling you where to go, was she American or was she Belgian?
Yeah, there was American soldiers there.
No, but the woman who was telling you where to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Was she American or was she Belgian? Was she from Belgium?
So my other daughter and we went to Brussels after the war, and we stayed at the same hotel that I was in, and they had everything was the same. The headboards and the beds were the same after all those years.
All right. Now,
nothing was changed.
Okay. Do you remember what time of year that was? Was that during the winter that you were doing that, or was that during the winter or in the spring? Or
no, it was. I think it was probably in September.
Okay.
It was not cold.
All right. Well, that was after the war was over then.
No. Oh yeah, that was, yes.
Yeah, that part was. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So.
Okay. All right. So.
And then I got back to my outfit, and we just were in time for the Battle of the Bulge.
Okay.
And that was the worst thing I've ever had done in my life.
All right.
We lost over 100,000 men.
All right. And then, well, what happened to your unit?
Huh?
What did your battalion do?
What was I doing?
Yeah. What were you during that battle?
I was trying to stay alive and kill as many people as I can.
All right. Now, were you a rifleman?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
So you just carried a rifle.
I was a corporal and
Okay.
assistant platoon leader. And then we I don't know how many days that was. Must have been 2 weeks. And then the next battle was the Siegfried Line.
Okay.
And we couldn't get through. We could walk through, but these were all cement pillars that tanks and everything couldn't get through. They must have been doing that for years, building that. And
so did you have
we
to?
had a, it was called a BAR rifle.
Right.
It was almost like a machine gun. You probably had 100 rounds, and they had a tripod, and I got a hold of one of those, and the Germans were coming out of the woods, and I just sprayed them with that, and I kept that for quite a while, but it was kind of heavy. And
Now, what was that? Was that when you were at the Siegfried Line? Okay.
And I went and to another battle, and it was called Rudesheim. I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
And we were going into this town, and we got to the edge coming into the town. We had a sniper in the one of the buildings, and my best friend next to me got shot. He got shot in the arm, and his name was Doug Reuter, and I asked him, "Did you get hit?" And he said, "Yeah, I got hit pretty bad." And I said, "We got to get you out of here," because he had it zeroed in. So he got a hold of my arm, and I walked back with him to the medic station, and they said, "You got to go back to the front line because we'll take care of him." And he was in the hospital for 2 years. And I kept in touch with him. He came here for my 50th anniversary.
Wow.
He's a great guy.
Okay.
And
So what?
I kept.
So,
It's about,
okay. Did you go back into the fight then?
Huh?
After you took him back, did you go back to where the sniper was?
Yeah, went back to the front.
Okay.
And I had to change my uniform, my fatigues, because it was all full of blood from him.
Okay.
But and my medic, every platoon has a medic assigned to you. His name was Flaherty, a good Irishman. And he kept in touch with all of us every day. And he'd come up and see how everything was, and he said, "You want a little orange juice?" And we said, sure. So it just wasn't orange juice. It was straight alcohol in it.
Oh.
So we had a little shot. So but that was all right. But I couldn't believe all of the ground just was covered with rifles, pistols, and everything you want. You could have just picked up anything, and
So
I
where?
don't know what they did with all of them.
So was that when the Germans surrendered?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So they threw down their weapons and they're just there. Okay. Now, when the war, did you stay in Germany for a while after the war?
I stayed there about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came back to the States. We had another 14-hour ride on a boat. And we went to New York, and I never saw so many people in my life. And I got off the boat with all the rest of the guys, and I didn't know what these people were all going to do. You know, they were rushing at me, and they were all trying to hug me. So, and then they had a big meal inside for us. And then we stayed there for a couple days. And then we went back to Chicago. And I'm trying to think where we went then. Oh, Camp Maxey, Texas. We went.
Okay.
And that's where I spent the rest of my time in the Army.
All right. So they didn't let you go home?
We had to get a number that we had, and then when your number came up, then you were discharged.
All right.
So
Okay.
it
Now,
took quite a while.
all right. Now, so, you know, and trying to put your timeline together a little bit here, because I think your unit arrives in France in October of '44. So your trip to Brussels would have to be after that. Also, it's anyway.
It was about a good 3 months.
Okay. Because that would have been getting into the winter.
But we didn't train or nothing.
All right.
Just,
that's the 3 months in Texas?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, when you were in Germany, did you see the civilian people there?
Did I what?
Did you see ordinary Germans, German civilians?
I told everybody I was probably shooting at my relatives.
Okay. But after the war was over,
Yeah.
you were in Germany. Did you see much of the German people?
No.
Okay. They kept you away from them?
Yeah.
Okay.
But after the war, my other daughter took me on a vacation.
Right.
And we did go to quite a few places in Germany.
Okay. And did you go to places that you had been to during the war?
I went to a lot of places where we fought. And,
Right.
and
Okay.
there's a lot of places that were, some of our soldiers were buried. They really honored us there.
All right. Now, did most of the men in your platoon survive? Did most of the men in your platoon survive and go home?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you were lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of combat units lost a lot of men.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now, if you think about the time that you spent in Europe during the war, are there other things that happened that you haven't talked about yet?
During the war?
Yeah. Can you remember other things that happened? Are there things he's leaving out?
Trying to think.
You know, honestly, not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't really know many war
Oh,
stories.
this is a good one. We were marching along the road, like you see some of the movies, and that's the way we were marching along the road. And we were going to another town. And there was two Jeeps coming from behind, and they had flags on them, and there were stars on them. So we figured this got to be a general, and they stopped and said, "Anybody can drive a Jeep?" Well, that's a dumb question. Everybody can drive a Jeep. So I said, "Yeah, I can drive a Jeep." He said, "Well, come on." He said, "You can drive this Jeep. Our driver just got shot, and we need somebody to drive the general into the next town." So I drove the Jeep, and I just floored it as fast as the Jeep could go. And I could see these people in the back just jumping up and down. So that was one experience. But then we had C rations and K rations.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't too bad, but every now and then we'd have a hot meal come up, and they had a little trailer on the back to keep the food warm, and that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Now,
that didn't happen very often,
Okay.
but.
all right. Well,
And we had our little tents, and we had some little time to regroup, so we pitched the tents, and which we shouldn't have done, because we had them all together in a group, and the German planes just came in and strafed us. So we took the tents down quickly.
mm-hmm. All right. Do you remember when you did that?
Huh?
Was that when you were in France, or was that later?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, during the winter,
Huh?
did you have to sleep outside?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you stay warm?
With 2 jackets on and 3 pairs of socks and a wool hat underneath my metal hat, and gloves, which weren't for nothing. They were cloth gloves, and they weren't very good.
Yeah.
And I know my grandkids said, "Where did you sleep?" And I said, "Well, right right outside on the ground.
You've always told us about digging foxholes, that you dug foxholes to sleep in. Do you want to talk about those?
And,
He did mention that earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
and we never lay down next to a tank, because they could be moving at night.
Okay.
So don't go near them.
Did you ever ride on top of the tanks?
No.
Okay. Would you walk behind them?
Huh?
Would you walk
Yeah.
behind the tanks? Okay. And could you communicate with the people in the tank?
Uh-huh.
Was there a phone on the back of the tank you could use?
I really mostly rode in the half track
Okay.
if I had a chance.
Right.
And the one experience we had with the tanks, this was in the winter time, and our tanks were not as good as the Germans, the 88s.
Mm-hmm.
And so our tanks got sandbags, I don't know where they got them, and put them around the tanks. And they were on there quite a while, so they froze. So some officers came up to see us, and one of them was Patton, and he wanted to know what those were on the side of the tank. He said, they don't look the same as our tanks. So they told him, and he said, well, I think you better get them off. So they took everything to get those off because they were frozen. But
Now, did you ever get attacked by German tanks?
huh?
Did you ever see any German tanks?
Of what?
Did you see any German tanks?
Uh-huh.
Did they attack you?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you do when a tank attacks?
Huh?
What did your guys do when the German tanks attacked? What did you do?
Well, we're back, following them. So
Okay. But what happened
we
when?
didn't want to get in front of them.
Oh, but what happened if the German tanks came out?
We took care of a few of them, but most of them we didn't have a chance to
Mm-hmm.
even blow them up.
Did you have any bazookas?
Huh?
Did you have bazookas?
Uh-huh.
And were they any good?
What?
Were the bazookas effective? Could you knock out a German tank with a bazooka?
I know we did following the tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we got close enough and threw grenades inside.
Okay.
That didn't happen too often, but
Okay. Because
I'm just glad my grandkids don't have to go anything like that again.
yeah. All right. Now, did the German aircraft attack you a lot, or
Yeah,
just once, or?
uh-huh. Yeah, they were all over.
Okay.
And they were fast, so you never knew where they were coming.
Well, were they using jets?
Uh-huh.
Did they have jet airplanes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had some of those at the end of the war.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, you mentioned you said you went to the Siegfried line, and the tanks couldn't get. You went to the Siegfried line. The tanks couldn't get
that
through.
was
But did you find a way to get through, or did you go
Well,
around?
I could walk through.
Well, you could walk through, but
But the tanks couldn't until we had the engineers come up and detonate them,
right,
because they were thick
right.
cement.
So you
They
guys,
must have been building those for years,
they were. They were.
because it went for miles.
Mhm. Yeah. So your infantry, so you guys went through first and pushed the Germans away, and the engineers came in behind you.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay.
uh,
All right. Yeah. And do you remember crossing?
and then there was another time
Okay.
that we were fighting each other at close range, and these people came on the other side, and they had our uniforms on. So we thought it was maybe people relieving us. And one of the sergeants came and he said, "Start shooting." He said they broke into our supply unit and they put on our uniforms. So we had to start shooting. Oh gosh.
All right. But you held them off. I mean,
Yeah.
you made them go away.
Ah,
Okay. All right. Now, do you remember crossing the Rhine River?
yeah,
Okay.
Ryan.
And how did you cross it?
Huh?
And did you cross it on
There was a bridge
Okay.
before they blew it up. But then they blew it and the tanks couldn't get through.
So how long did you have to wait for the tanks?
Huh?
How long did it take to get the tanks across?
The engineers had some kind of floats
Yeah.
that they could float them across, so down farther. So
All right. And do you remember where you were when the war ended?
I was probably just outside of Berlin.
Well, we never got to Berlin.
No,
The Soviets got there.
but I was close by.
Oh, okay.
I was maybe, maybe 30 miles.
Possible. Were you along the Elbe River or that area? Okay. All right. And once you got into Germany, was there less fighting?
Less fighting?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, so after you crossed the Rhine, you were still fighting?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of infighting with the small towns and
Okay. Did you ever have to fight any SS units? Did you encounter the SS, the German SS soldiers? Okay. Because they had the black uniforms and
yeah,
they were nasty. But did you have to fight them?
yeah.
Okay. Because they were some of the
We
ones.
didn't, we had people in our outfit that were, I don't know, they were just born to be fighters. And I didn't like them. They didn't take prisoners. And the Russians, I fought with them a little bit, and they were the same way. They didn't take prisoners.
All right. So you met some of the Russian soldiers?
Huh?
Did you meet some Russian soldiers? Okay.
I had one of the fellows from Michigan that was a good friend, and I think we were probably 2 or 3 weeks in Germany, and he got captured. And he survived the prison camp, but after the war, I kept in touch with him, and we became good friends. And he was telling me things that happened in the prison camp. He said they lined him up and they just shot at their feet. And he lost 3 toes standing there. So, but he survived. And my first house I built, he helped me build a garage.
So
I had never built a garage, but he said, heck, we'll build a garage. So we did.
all right. Did you go after you got out of the Army?
Yeah.
Did you go back to Detroit?
Huh?
Did you
Did
go-
I?
Yeah. Did you go back to Detroit?
Oh, they wanted me to join up again.
Oh, okay.
But I said, no, I've had enough. And they still kept after me
Okay. Well,
to
did you
join up.
stay in the reserves or did you just leave?
I stayed in Detroit.
No. Okay. All right. And what kind of work did you do?
I was in advertising at J.L. Hudson's,
Okay.
and I stayed there 10 years. And seemed like I was in advertising all the time. And I went, from there I went to a furniture store and stayed there 4 or 5 years. And then from there I went to Jacobson's department store. I don't know if you know that.
There was still one in Grand Rapids when I moved there. So yes, I know them.
So I stayed there 10 years.
Okay.
And left there, and I had a print shop for a while, and then I ended up at the Ann Arbor News, working there, advertising, and I stayed there till they were almost closed up for 10 years. And then I think I was 83 years old.
Okay.
I said, I think it's time to go.
Right. Probably. All right. So when did you get married?
1948.
Okay.
Is it,
Yes, yes,
Good.
Oh,
He's got
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I get sometimes mixed up, but
They were married
I
for
was married 70
years.
years.
Wow. All right. Okay. Now, when you think back at the time that you spent in the Army, what do you think you learned from that experience?
What?
How did your time in the Army affect you? Or what did you learn from being in the Army?
After?
Well, no. How did the experience of being in the Army affect you?
It wasn't good.
Okay.
I know that. I wouldn't like to do it again.
Okay. All right.
And, but
Do you think anything good came out of it?
anything good?
Yeah.
Well, I know I was in better shape when I came out
Mm-hmm.
than I was, which I wasn't too bad when I went in, but after that 17 weeks, man, I still exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're still here.
I've had a little setbacks on operations.
All right.
One big one.
All right. Okay.
I don't know what they call that one, Darce. The brain.
Well, my mom and dad fell in their garage. My dad was helping my mom into the house,
Mm-hmm.
and she fell backwards when they lived in a condo up here. And my mom broke her ankle, and my dad thought he was okay. But about 2 weeks later, he started seeing double, and we realized he had a brain bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had 3 neurosurgeries
Wow.
within 48 hours, and we didn't know if he was going to make it. They gave him about a 20% chance. He was in the ICU for 10 days. And miraculously, all of a sudden, he woke up, and my mom and dad were roommates in physical therapy and inpatient physical therapy for 8 weeks. And unfortunately, my mom didn't do as well as my dad did, but my dad recovered, and that was almost 7 years ago.
Oh,
It was in November of 17.
okay.
And so it was a lot to recover from, but he's doing really well.
All right. Well, now what will happen here is I'll turn off the camera, and then he'll say something else.
Yes.
'Cause it will happen at some point. So, so now we've been talking about this wartime experience. Is there anything else that's come up in your memory here while we've been talking? Is there any other story you can add here before we finish?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I know I dream a lot about the war,
Mm-hmm.
different things. Most of the fellows I know from being in the Army are gone.
Well, yeah. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers things for us. So I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.